After receiving a clean bill of health, Senator Mike Lee appears at today's Supreme Court confirmation hearing in person. In an exclusive interview, the Utah senator speaks with One America's John Hines of all of the talk by Democrats, quote, fear mongering ahead of the election. Take a look.
Justice Barrett has been before your committee. As far as you're concerned, what are some of the takeaways from this day of hearings and testimony in the Senate Judiciary?
First of all, I loved Judge Barrett's presentation to us today. I thought her opening remarks were spot on. She opened by pointing out that the judicial branch of our government is not a policy-making body. It's very similar to what I've been saying as we've approached these hearings for some time. We need to get back to that understanding. Judges are there to interpret the law rather than expound on what they might wish the law said. There is a big difference. It's a difference that matters here, and it's a difference that if we can embrace as a country and understand, will actually reduce the amount of contention that surrounds the Supreme Court of the United States.
As things have come along, as things have started out, it seems like some of your Democratic colleagues are trying to bring up this issue of health care, suggesting perhaps that this justice, this nominee, would change or overturn the health care laws now before the Supreme Court. Is that accurate? Is that an accurate or appropriate forum to have to discuss this sort of issue, do you think?
First of all, I don't know how it is that they purport to know how she would rule on a particular case. Now, they've correctly identified the fact that she has offered some criticism of the majority opinion in NFIB versus Sebelius. That was the opinion in which Chief Justice Roberts, joined by the four acknowledged liberals on the court, rewrote Obamacare not just once, but twice, in a rather shameless way, in order to avoid an otherwise inevitable finding of unconstitutionality. That was a shameful act. She appropriately called him out for doing that, and the other four justices who joined him. It's a different case than the one they're talking about here. This is election season fear-mongering. This is their way of trying to get free advertising, essentially, for the Biden campaign by trying to convince people that Donald Trump and Amy Coney Barrett want to take away their health care. It's just not fair. It's not accurate. It's phony.
You mentioned the former vice president, the Democratic nominee for president, Mr. Biden. He has very pointedly refused to talk about whether or not he would add seats to the Supreme Court. I wanted to get your thoughts about that.
There's a very simple reason why he's refused to comment on it, because he wants to do that. He wants to reserve that as an option. He knows it'll be difficult to defend if he says he might do it, and he knows that it'll be difficult to defend when he does do it if he says now that he won't do it. What other reason could there be for him to say, I won't do this? Now look, this hasn't been proposed in a serious way since fall of 1936, as I recall, when FDR did it. It was a bad idea then. It was a terrible idea in 1983 when Joe Biden gave a persuasive, rousing speech in the Senate about how that was a bad idea then. And it hasn't ripened into a good idea since then.
I was hoping maybe you could look into your crystal ball and give us perhaps a glimpse or a sample of some of the questions or some of the areas that you would like to ask Justice Barrett about.
You know, I often ask judicial nominees a series of questions about, for example, what they think about the difference between will and judgment. Will and judgment were what Alexander Hamilton described in Federalist 78 as the respective levers of power in the legislative branch, which exercises will, and the judicial branch, which exercises judgment. I may also ask her certain things about other issues that will have been raised by then by some of my Democratic colleagues, perhaps issues dealing with issues of life, of health care, and things like that. I will be particularly eager to ask her questions that I think are necessary in order to clarify misstatements made by my colleagues.
Senator Mike Lee, it's good to catch up with you, and good to see you with a clean bill of health. Thank you very much for talking to us on One America News.
Oh, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.